Albert Camus was a French-Algerian philosopher who built his life's work around the philosophy of absurdism. As human beings, we're desperate for life to give us a grand, ultimate meaning or a clear blueprint to follow. But the universe is completely silent and indifferent to what we want. This conflict, our deep need for meaning versus a silent world, is what Camus called the absurd. Most of us spend our entire lives trying to fix this by constantly chasing things. Because the universe didn't give us a blueprint, we try to buy one. We convince ourselves that we can finally be happy if we just get a lot of money, a major career, or premium experiences. Until then, we just try to get through the day, assuming our real life hasn't actually started yet. But Camus argued that once you accept that life doesn't come with a built-in meaning, you actually become free. You realise you don't need wealth, status, or some future version of life to feel alive right now. He wrote about this in books like The Stranger, The Myth of Sisyphus, and The Plague. His stories focus on ordinary people dealing with normal struggles, like boring jobs and money issues, and finding freedom anyway. For Camus, living fully was not about finding a perfect future. It was about letting go of constant expectations and becoming more present in everyday life. And that's what this video is about. How to live fully through the philosophy of Albert Camus. Number 1. Stop waiting for life to give you a meaning. In his novel The Plague, Camus introduces us to a coastal town called Oran that's suddenly sealed off from the rest of the world by a deadly epidemic. Almost immediately, the citizens put their lives on hold. They treat the lockdown like a temporary pause, sitting in their homes and waiting for the gates to reopen so that their real lives can finally resume. Meanwhile, the town's leaders desperately search for the grand cosmic meaning behind the sickness, insisting it must be part of some divine plan. But the main character, a doctor named Bernard Rieux, refuses to participate in any of this. When someone asks him why he works so relentlessly to save people if he doesn't believe in a cosmic purpose, Rieux's answer is radically simple. He doesn't know what it all means, and it doesn't matter. There are sick people right in front of him, and he has a job to do. Rieux knows that the universe doesn't care if the town survives, but instead of giving up or inventing a fake story to comfort himself, he makes a choice. He looks directly at a silent, meaningless world, and he rebels against it simply by doing his work. The problem is, most of us act exactly like the trapped citizens of Oran. We obsess over finding our grand purpose. We tell ourselves, I'll finally be happy when I find my true calling, or my real life will begin once the business hits that revenue goal. We put our very existence on hold, freezing up as we wait for the universe to hand us an envelope with our ultimate mission written inside. Camus wanted us to see that the envelope is never coming. And because that envelope isn't coming, you're left with something much more powerful. You're left with a choice. You have the power to look at a silent universe and say, fine, I'll decide what matters. So when you sit down to work, you do the task in front of you well, not because it fulfills some grand destiny, but because you decided to care about the work today. When you're with people you love, stop waiting for some dramatic movie-like moment to make life meaningful. Put the phone down, look at the people across from you, and choose to actually be present. Meaning isn't a revelation waiting for you at the finish line. It's just a series of quiet, deliberate choices. It's the choice to stop waiting and start owning the day you're already in. Number 2. Kill hope. In his groundbreaking novel, The Stranger, Camus introduces us to a man named Meursault. Meursault is a completely detached, ordinary clerk living in Algiers who doesn't play by society's emotional rules. When his mother dies, he doesn't weep at her funeral because he simply refuses to lie or pretend to feel an expected societal grief that isn't naturally there. Later, through a series of random, chaotic events on a beach, the overwhelming glare of the sun disorientates him causing him to mindlessly pull the trigger and shoot an Arab man. When he's put on trial, the prosecutors aren't actually interested in the logistics of the crime. Instead, they focus entirely on his character. The court judges him for smoking beside his mother's coffin and going to watch a comedy the next day. Toward the end of the book, Meursault is sitting in his prison cell waiting for his execution. A prison chaplain enters, urges him to turn to God, to repent and to embrace the hope of an afterlife. But Meursault completely snaps. He grabs the priest by the collar and rejects him entirely. To an outsider, it looks like a moment of pure despair, but for Camus, it was the moment Meursault became free. Once he stopped hoping for rescue, God, or another life after death, all illusions disappeared, and what remained was the reality in front of him. The prison cell, the night air, and the limited time he had left. By giving up hope for a different future, he was finally able to fully face the present. On the surface, telling someone to kill hope sounds incredibly pessimistic, but Camus meant it as a radical form of liberation. When we hope for something, we're quietly admitting that our present moment isn't good enough. Hope relies on an uncertain future to solve our current problems. We look at a difficult period in our lives and say, I just hope things get better next year, or I hope this problem fixes itself. Camus believed that this kind of hope is an intellectual drug that numbs the discomfort of the present. By constantly looking at the horizon for a better tomorrow, we avoid taking responsibility for the life we actually have right now. His solution was to stop hoping things will magically fix themselves and start dealing with exactly what's in front of you. When you're stuck in a frustrating job, financial stress, or problems in a relationship, the instinct is to usually wait and hope things somehow change. But Camus argued that real freedom begins when you stop expecting a miracle and ask yourself a simpler question. If nothing about this changes tomorrow, what's the best move I can make right now? Once you stop relying on the future to save you, your attention returns to what you can actually control today. Number 3. Embrace the daily grind. In his essay, The Myth of Sisyphus, Camus uses a Greek myth to explain ordinary life. Zeus punishes a king named Sisyphus for trying to cheat death. His punishment is simple. He must push a giant boulder up a mountain forever. Every time he gets close to the top, the rock rolls all the way back down and he has to start again. To the gods, this was the perfect torture because the work never ends and leads nowhere. Camus believed modern life often feels the same. We wake up, commute, answer emails, come home, clean the house, pay some bills, sleep, repeat. Most people cope by constantly waiting for escape. The weekend, more money, a vacation, or some future where life finally feels easier somehow. But Camus focused on one specific moment in the story, when Sisyphus walks back down the mountain to pick up the rock again. Now, at that moment, Sisyphus already knew the rock was going to fall again. He knew that there was no final reward waiting for him, but nonetheless, he chose to continue anyway. By accepting his reality and pushing the rock regardless, Sisyphus took away the god's power to break him. That's why Camus wrote that we must imagine Sisyphus happy. He's happy because he refuses to surrender to misery, even inside a repetitive and difficult life. And Camus believed we face the same choice every day. He reduced it to a blunt question. Should I kill myself or have a cup of coffee? The point was simple. Every morning you decide whether to reject life or continue participating in it through ordinary actions. Making coffee, going to work, cleaning your room, answering emails, these routines are still your life. And when you choose to get up and make that morning coffee, you're choosing to continue instead of giving up. So the next time you sit down to a repetitive task or handle a frustrating chore, don't let your mind drift into frustration. Don't wish you were somewhere else. Instead, bring your full attention to whatever's right in front of you. When you make that coffee in the morning, don't rush through it just to get to your emails. Just stand there, watch it brew, and taste it. If you're cleaning a room, do it methodically and deliberately. If you're filling out a spreadsheet, focus on doing it with total clarity. For Camus, living fully was never about escaping the climb. It was about choosing how you carry the rock. Number 4. Prioritize the quantity of the present over the quality. In the same essay, The Myth of Sisyphus, Camus uses the example of an actor to explain how we should think about life. An actor steps onto a stage, plays a role for a few hours, and then the play ends. The moment disappears forever. Now, the actor doesn't try to make the performance last forever or save their energy for some better scene later. They give themselves fully to the role while it exists. Usually, we save up for rare quality moments. The premium vacation, the VIP tickets, the Michelin star dinner. The problem with chasing quality is that it requires a lot of money and perfect timing. If you don't have those things, you feel like you're locked out of the good life. You sit around feeling poor, waiting for the day you can finally afford the premium version of reality. Camus rejected that mindset. If there's no final cosmic scoreboard, then life isn't about collecting elite experiences. It's about participating in life as often as possible. 100 ordinary moments fully lived can be richer than a few expensive ones. If you want a great social life, stop waiting until you can afford to take your partner or your friends to a high-end restaurant to celebrate, and instead make cheap, basic dinners in your cramped kitchen 3 times a week. By the end of the year, you've had over 100 nights of eating, talking and laughing versus one single night of being served by a waiter. If you want culture and entertainment, stop feeling miserable because you can't afford a massive music festival or expensive theatre tickets. Read a massive stack of used paperbacks, or go to a free local show, or watch a few classic films in your living room. You don't need wealth to experience life deeply. You only need the willingness to participate in the version of your life available to you right now. The goal is not to own the most impressive experiences. The goal is to truly live as many moments as you can. Number 5. Reconnect with the physical world. In his unfinished autobiography, The First Man, Camus tells a story about a boy named Jacques, who's largely based on his own childhood. Jacques grows up in a neighbourhood in Algiers where practically no one has any money. He lives in a tiny, cramped apartment with his strict grandmother and his deaf, illiterate mother. But Camus doesn't write this story like a tragedy. Inside the house, there's poverty and silence. But the moment Jacques and his friends step outside, the tone completely shifts. Pages describing the physical thrill of the boys running down to the harbour, swimming in the Mediterranean, eating cheap fruit and lying on the hot sand. Out there, they were the kings of the world because they had access to the sun and the ocean, and they felt entirely wealthy in their physical freedom. Camus is trying to explain that we have the definition of wealth completely wrong. To him, real poverty is simply losing touch with the physical world around us. Think about how most of us operate today. We measure our success entirely by the digits on a screen, the square footage of a house, the price of a car. To accumulate those numbers, we willingly sit inside climate-controlled rooms, beneath artificial fluorescent lights, staring at glass screens for 8 to 10 hours a day. We trade our physical existence for a paycheck, often just to save up enough money to spend 1 week a year sitting on a beach desperately trying to feel the exact sun and water that Camus engaged every single day with for free. Camus would look at that setup and say, "We're the ones living in poverty." To be clear, he wasn't romanticizing being broke, and he knew that money was necessary to survive. But what he was pointing out was that you don't need a promotion to feel the temperature of the air. You don't need to be a millionaire to pay attention to the taste of your food, or the shock of cold water when you wash your face. So the next time you catch yourself stressing over what you don't have, or feeling like you're falling behind in life, Camus suggests simply returning to what you can physically touch, see, and hear. Take whatever's right in front of you. A walk in a public park, a cheap book, a basic homemade dinner, and give your senses to it completely. If you can still deeply experience the ordinary world around you, you already have a baseline of wealth that costs nothing and that no one can take away from you. Number 6. Rebel. In 1952, after World War II, much of Europe was poor, emotionally exhausted, and deeply pessimistic. Camus himself was also feeling tired and depressed by everything happening around him. When he returned to the ancient Roman ruins of Tipasa in Algeria, the weather was cold and rainy. Then the weather cleared, sunlight came out over the sea, and Camus suddenly felt better. In that moment, he realised that the cruelty and negativity of the world couldn't take away his ability to enjoy life. He later wrote, "In the midst of winter, I found there was within me an invincible summer." He believed that life is often unfair, chaotic, and painful. But instead of giving in to the despair, he thought the strongest response, what he called rebellion, was to keep living fully and finding reasons to enjoy life anyway. He proved this throughout his own life by throwing himself into 4 specific ways that require very little wealth. First, there was sports. Camus was a passionate soccer player and spent his youth as a goalkeeper on the rough dirt fields of Algiers. He famously wrote that everything he knew, most surely about morality, he owed to soccer. Running, playing a sport, or pushing yourself physically is a completely free way to feel alive and present. Second is creativity. Long before he was a Nobel Prize winning author, Camus was writing essays in a tiny room and putting on plays with an amateur theatre group of working class citizens. They had zero budget but a deep need to express themselves. So whether you're writing a story, sketching, or making music, creating something is a direct refusal to let the chaos of life numb you. Then third is travel. According to Camus, travel broke your daily habits and forced you to be fully awake and sharpen your senses. You can practice this simply by catching a cheap bus to a nearby town or walking down streets you've never seen before. It's a free way to shock your brain out of its daily numbness. And finally is love and friendship. Camus believed that loving people fiercely, sharing a deep conversation, and laughing until your stomach hurts with a friend are the ultimate buffers against a cold universe. When you're going through a tough time, you're expected to look defeated, to stay up late worrying. But if you choose to play a game with friends, if you spend an afternoon creating something just for fun, or if you explore a new place, you're staging a quiet revolt. When you protect your ability to love and laugh over a basic cheap meal, you're looking at a difficult situation and saying, "You can make things hard for me, but you don't get to choose how I feel." And that's our video. What did you think? Are you going to be changing anything about your life following in the ways of Albert Camus? And if not, why not? But until next time, I've been Dan, you've been awesome, and if you enjoyed what you saw or found it helpful at all, why not check out our full Philosophies for Life playlist? And of course, for more videos to help you find success and happiness using beautiful philosophical wisdom, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching.